Yes, it's another 10 forgotten British television sitcoms of the 1970s. Cast your mind back and see how many of these you remember watching. Written by On the Bus's creators Ronald Wolfe and Ronald Chesney, and first broadcast on ITV in 1973, following a 1972 pilot episode, Romany Jones was a starring vehicle for much-loved Dad's Army star James Beck. Beck was Bert Jones, who lives with his wife Betty on a rundown caravan site, their caravan being next door to that of Wally and Lily Briggs, played by Arthur Mullard and Queenie Watts. Indeed, it was Wally and Lily who became the breakout characters of the show, so much so that they were given their own spin-off, Yus My Dear, which ran for 2 series in 1976. The characters also appeared in the 1973 film Holiday on the Buses. Panned by critics but proving popular with viewers, Romany Jones ran for 4 series between 1973 and 1976. Sadly, star James Beck only appeared in the first 2 series, passing away in August 1973 at the tragically young age of 44 from complications related to pancreatitis.
Come on in, my little angel. There's a beauty. That's the way from you. Come on in.
Hello, Wally. Feeding the chicken then?
No, teaching it a dance, mate. Of course I'm feeding her. She loves this stuff. Corn on the cob. Gets through several a day if I let her.
Yeah, listen, Wally, you couldn't lend me a few quid till Friday, could you?
You've been down the betting shop again then?
Well, I couldn't hang about that labour exchange all day long with them layabouts. Anyway, I had this red-hot tip.
Who gave it to you then?
Clerk of the labour exchange. Useless lot.
Yes, that's right. Come on, Florrie, love. You are a beauty, ain't ya?
Come on, Florrie, love. You are a beauty, ain't you? Why the hell don't you get in there with her?
She's a better looking bird than you are.
The show continued for another 2 series, with characters Jeremy and Susan Crichton-Jones moving in next to Wally and Lily. As with a number of the shows featured in this video, Romany Jones was released on DVD by Network, who sadly went into administration in 2023. This means that copies are now becoming scarce. In 1974, David Jason was still looking for his big break, the one role that would catapult him to stardom. Having been a member of the cast of the children's comedy series Do Not Adjust Your Set, The Top Secret Life of Edgar Briggs was David's first starring role in a television sitcom. Despite the series being very funny and featuring an excellent performance from the future Knight of the Realm, The Top Secret Life of Edgar Briggs didn't prove to be the success that David Jason was hoping for, running for 1 series of 13 episodes. Edgar Briggs is an enthusiastic but bumbling secret intelligence service agent who, despite his clumsiness and ineptitude, always manages to solve every case. With the series featuring lots of physical comedy, David Jason got the chance to prove his mastery of this type of humour, performing the vast majority of stunts himself. If you are a fan of Sir David Jason but haven't seen The Top Secret Life of Edgar Briggs, then I would recommend you give it a try. Although the series was released on DVD, those DVDs are very hard to find now. Happily, you can still catch some episodes here on YouTube. If you have never seen the 1972 Ronnie Barker sitcom His Lordship Entertains in full, then sadly it is highly likely you will never get that opportunity. Of the 7 episodes made, only 1 still exists, a black and white version of the very first episode of His Lordship Entertains having been found in 2007. Comedy legend Ronnie Barker had first portrayed the character of Lord Rustless in the ITV series Hark at Barker in 1969. Rather than a sitcom, Hark at Barker was more a sketch series, with Ronnie Barker portraying a dizzying amount of characters. After moving to the BBC, Ronnie once more slipped into the role of the crusty aristocrat for His Lordship Entertains, but this time the series was to be a sitcom. Having fallen on hard times, Lord Rustless has now opened his home, Crome Hall, as a hotel. Helping him in this venture are his loyal staff, including Mildred Bates, played by Josephine Tewson, and the doddery, aged gardener Dithers, portrayed by a completely unrecognisable David Jason. Restored to its original colour, the sole surviving episode of His Lordship Entertains was released on DVD, but I wish you the best of luck in finding it now. However, if you don't mind watching in black and white, the episode is available right here on YouTube. Clive Dunn was very adept at playing characters that were much older than himself. From his most famous role as Lance Corporal Jones in Dad's Army to having a #1 hit in the UK music charts with Grandad, it seemed that Clive was destined to always play the older man. And so it was no surprise when he landed the role of retired engine driver Sam Cobbett in the Yorkshire television sitcom My Old Man in 1974. What is perhaps forgotten is that when a pilot episode was broadcast in 1973, it was with Ronnie Barker in the lead role. When the BBC decided not to commission a full series, writer Gerald Frow took the idea to Yorkshire Television. With his home about to be demolished, Sam Cobbett moves in with his daughter and her husband in their flat in a brand new tower block. Although he ultimately means well, Sam's interfering ways soon cause disruption in the household. Interestingly, actress Priscilla Morgan, who played Sam's daughter Doris here, was actually married to Clive Dunn for over 50 years before his death in 2012. My Old Man is available on DVD, but is becoming ever harder to find. A little-known but highly enjoyable sitcom from London Weekend Television, Maggie and Her began life as a pilot in 1976 under the title Poppy and Her. With the name of the title character changed, the first full series of Maggie and Her was broadcast on Friday evenings in January and February 1978. Julia Mackenzie is title character Maggie, a divorced schoolteacher who lives in a flat opposite the nosy Mrs. Perry, played by the magnificent Irene Handl. Despite being well-intentioned, Mrs. Perry is forever interfering with Maggie's attempts to find a new man in her life, the two women eventually forming a mother-daughter type relationship.
Here, how much longer is that window cleaner going to be? Has he been in your bedroom?
That's my business.
Well, I hope you'll soon be finished with him.
Well, I don't know. He might be ours yet.
Built-in.
I think it's rather amusing, don't you, George? These solemn little snoopers.
Geisha Gull.
Nosy Parker.
Concubine.
Lady Hitler.
What are you laughing at?
I've never seen anything like it.
Hey,
No one would ever think you two were neighbours. Mother and daughter, more like. Mother and only daughter at that.
Running for 14 episodes over 2 series, Maggie and Her is available on DVD. Staying with fine comedy actresses for this next entry, You're Only Young Twice starred real-life friends Peggy Mount and Pat Coombs as Flora and Sissy, residents of the retirement home Paradise Lodge. Flora, played by the formidable Peggy Mount, often dominated her slightly dotty friend Sissy, and was the loudest of all the residents of the retirement home and a definite match for anyone. Supported by an excellent cast, Peggy Mount and Pat Coombs were, as always, marvellous in the 2 lead roles, ensuring that You're Only Young Twice remained popular with viewers throughout its 5-year run. Although never truly a laugh-out-loud comedy, You're Only Young Twice was nevertheless a hugely enjoyable watch, with 2 great comedy stars at the top of their game. You're Only Young Twice is available on DVD. Perhaps one of the most unusual setups for a traditional BBC studio sitcom, Come Back Mrs. Noah starred Mollie Sugden in the title role, a housewife who, after entering a cookery competition, wins the chance to be shown around a brand new space station. Unfortunately, the craft accidentally blasts off into orbit with Mrs. Noah and a skeleton crew on board. Written by Jeremy Lloyd and David Croft, creators of Are You Being Served and 'Allo 'Allo, the cast of Come Back Mrs. Noah featured a number of David Croft television regulars, including Ian Lavender from Dad's Army, Donald Hewlett and Michael Knowles from It Ain't Half Hot Mum, and, in his pre-'Allo 'Allo days, Gordon Kay. Despite the calibre of both writers and cast, Come Back Mrs. Noah pretty much sank without trace, lasting for just 6 episodes. Maybe the idea of Mollie Sugden in space was just too much of a stretch. Critics were certainly not kind to the show, with many citing it as being the worst sitcom of all time. Does it deserve that reputation? Well, although it could never be classed as a classic of the genre, there's enough fun to be had to make it worthwhile watching at least once. Although it is available on DVD, copies of Come Back Mrs. Noah are now hard to find. Another late 70s comedy curio, Room Service was written by David Croft's other writing partner, Jimmy Perry. Set in the room service department of a 5-star London hotel, this short-lived and long-forgotten sitcom starred prolific character actor Bryan Pringle as Charles Spooner, the formidable head of the department. Also along for the ride was a very young Matthew Kelly as newly hired waiter Dick Sedgwick. Another series to which critics took an instant dislike, Room Service is not writer Jimmy Perry's finest hour perhaps, but if you enjoy your comedy fast-paced, silly and with plenty of broad, easy humour, then you may well enjoy it. Inevitably, with the negative reviews at the time and the decidedly lukewarm response from audiences, Room Service lasted for just a single series in the winter of 1979. Room Service is still currently available on DVD. Enjoying a highly successful 5-series run during the mid to late 70s, Get Some In is possibly the least forgotten of the sitcoms featured today, but still isn't often mentioned when conversation turns to British sitcoms of the 1970s. Written by John Esmond and Bob Larby, whose other writing credits include the likes of Please Sir and The Good Life, Get Some In followed the lives of National Service recruits posted to RAF Skelton in the 1950s. Among the motley bunch of recruits are Jakey Smith, a former teddy boy played by Robert Lindsay, and the well-mannered Ken Richardson played by David Jansen. When Robert Lindsay left at the end of Series 4, the role of Jakey in Series 5 was taken by Carl Howman. The most memorable character was undoubtedly the bullying, petty-minded Corporal Marsh, played with relish by the late Tony Selby. Proving a big hit with viewers, Get Some In ran for 34 episodes over 5 series between 1975 and 1978. These series are available on DVD. Despite being unfairly forgotten today, My Wife Next Door won the British Academy Television Award for Best Situation Comedy in 1973. Starring the fine duo of John Alderton and Hannah Gordon as divorced couple George and Susie, My Wife Next Door follows their attempts to start new lives apart from each other, with each deciding to move to the country. This fresh start is tested to the limit, however, when they find they have moved into adjoining cottages. This fine romantic comedy was, rather surprisingly, created by Brian Clemens, a writer better known for action-adventure series such as The Avengers and The Professionals. With excellent performances from the 2 leads and fine scripts, My Wife Next Door proved to be a classy addition to the BBC comedy schedule of 1972.
Where's the bloody thing? I've got it, Susie! I've got it in my hand. And it's going this minute, right? Chuck it into that field right now. All right? Hey? Right. It's gone, Susie. She'll go and get it. Of course she will. Come on, Susie. Come on, come and get it. Come on, you cow. That thing will be worth a fortune now. Well, I'm not going to let it go green. I bloody well will sell it.
Although My Wife Next Door was released on DVD in 2015, copies are now quite hard to find. Do you have any particular favourites amongst the sitcoms featured today? Are there any you would prefer to never see again? As always, do please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed today's comedy nostalgia trip, a little click on the thumbs up button is always very much appreciated. As always, many thanks for watching, and do join me next time for more nostalgic goodness.